Hello, children. Would you like to see a story of weirdness? Well, that was new. Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a little bit just thrown off balance a little by that new tune from the 30-second countdown. It's a lot better. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. I mean, I almost want to listen to it again, but we got a show to do. That's kind of soothing, you know. So yeah, StreamYard. As much as I hate your pricing, you did a good job with the music or with the 30-second countdown tune change. Yeah.
Tell you, dude.
Welcome.
Tell you, dude.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to the weekly recap, folks.
Yep.
I'm your therapeutic host, Orange Hat, and this is my partner, Ambassador. We talk crazy shit, and we also talk movies. So yeah.
Yes.
How you doing, Ambassador?
I am okay. This is not to say of you or of our wonderful audience or even of my wife. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Well, then you need to escape the locker room.
Dude,
anyway.
Really? You don't get that reference? Really?
No.
How many assholes are on this ship? Yo! Really?
Mm-mm.
You uncultured swine. Spaceballs!
Oh, fuck. Yeah, you're right.
Nerd card
revoked. Hey, how you doing, Neozoic? Oh, my God. I haven't seen Spaceballs in a while, so give me a break.
No, I will not give you a break.
Anyway, folks, we're going to be talking some Captain America box office BS. We're going to be talking some Tom Hanks stupidity at SNL 50. Mark Hamill versus Pants, and guess who won? And some people are trying to push Cobra Kai as this right-wing Christian conservative series, or at least the finale of it anyway. So, yeah, we're going to be getting into that. So get your popcorn ready and make sure that you smash the like button if you want to support the channel. Go to youtube.com/orangehatreviews, all one word. And yeah, support the channel that way. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it to entertain and inform. That's all I'm really in it for, folks. If I ever do monetize, it's only because I finally hit the fucking bottom of the barrel and I might need a little extra cents. That's all. But yeah. So, who's ready to get on with this shit?
Let's get it on.
All right. So, on to Cap 4 box office BS. Now, folks, Captain America, Brave New World, which previously was called New World Order, which Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford tried their damnedest to make people believe that the Red Hulk wasn't in it. Because when the leaked photo of Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie together, and Harrison Ford had shredded shorts, they literally tried saying that Harrison Ford was so senile he came to set without pants. And so Anthony Mackie lent him his shorts from home. That's not a joke.
That's gonna be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Although it is kind of funny.
Yeah, it was all over Instagram a couple of years, or like last year or the year before. I remember that shit. But getting on to it, Captain America: Brave New World box office spun by Access Media as victory, but actual numbers tell the real story. Now, I am going to jump over there, so I'm sorry I cannot talk to the chat. I will get to the chat after I'm done with the article. That's how I usually do it. Ambassador, let me know if my audio is gets wonky.
Yep.
So, yeah. Look at that cross-eyed, red, angry Harrison Ford. I mean, I've seen some really pissed off people, but he's not beat red yet, so, yeah. Oh! Captain America Brave New World opened over the holiday weekend, meaning Valentine's Day, the feast of Saint Valentine's, who died for his faith, folks.
Yep.
Not that cushy commercialized romantic version of it. Yes, he was eaten, I believe, by cannibals, if I remember correctly. Saint Valentine. But anyway, to a domestic box office total of 100 million, with 88 million coming from its first 3-day weekend and an additional 12 million from the extended double holiday. What was the double holiday?
President's Day.
Huh. Okay. Let's see here. Internationally, the film grossed 92.4 million. This is as of the writing of the article, folks. February 18th, which is what, 5 days ago.
Monday. Yeah.
So, yeah, bringing in a worldwide of $192.4 million, which many access media outlets are celebrating as a major win for Disney Marvel. A closer look at the numbers and the film's actual costs tell a completely different story. Does Brave New World compare to MCU's biggest flops? Let's find out today on Weekly Recap. The Marvels, $46 million opening. Oh, by the way, folks, they were hailing this as, it did even better than the Marvels. It did better than the Eternals. It did better than all those other ones. Quantumania. Didn't all that shit flop? But yeah. Eternals, $71 million opening weekend. Quantumania, $106 million opening weekend. Thor Dark World, $85 million opening weekend. Iron Man 2, $128 million opening weekend. So, yeah, an $88 million 3-day opening against all that. Yeah. I mean, hey, it did better than Thor. Did better than Eternals. Did better than the Marvels.
Yeah. Just
one problem. And I need to go back to the thing so I can see myself. Folks, here's the bar. My hand, this hand here is the bar that is set by the Marvels. It's down here. But Captain America Brave New World did so fucking well. Are you getting my point yet? Ambassador, you want to say something?
Well, here's the thing. Do I have any intention of watching Brave New World or buying it on home video when it comes out? Probably not. So if they're hoping that this is going to make some money after the fact with home video sales, I wouldn't count on it. And I will say, of the list of the movies there that didn't perform particularly well, some of them were good, some of them were meh. So, but I'm not particularly surprised that this movie underperformed and that they're trying to spend $192 million. Here's the thing: back in like the 80s or the 90s, if a movie made $102 million, $192 million, or $200 million, that's a big ass success. But nowadays, with the inflated production costs and everything else, that's not that good.
No, it isn't. As for Neozoic, do you think they should have made this a Hulk movie rather than a Captain America movie? That's what I'm hearing. Apparently, this is a wrap-up sequel to The Incredible Hulk because they got the leader who was created all the way back in The Incredible Hulk, and we haven't seen him since 2008.
Yeah.
So we also have, well, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who last time we saw, he actually had a different face. And Black Widow. Yeah. Rest in hurt, William Hurt. Or rest in hurt. Yeah. Rest in peace, William Hurt. Holy shit. I am so sorry. Hey, Junebug, good to see you, man. But yeah, honestly, I don't think this Marvel should just shut up and stop. That's what they really should do. But let's continue on with this. Brave New World sits between Eternals and Quantum Mania. Eternals with only one good shot in the entire fucking movie. And that was when Arishem the Judge parted the clouds and just happened to be looking down at the earth. And I'm like, yeah, I'd shit myself if I was there. I mean, yeah, that was the only good shot from Eternals, man. Or folks.
I'd say it had if there was a few other shots, but okay, we'll
anything that involved an Eternal or actually anything that involved a Celestial, yeah, I'd say was pretty decent.
But anyway, moving on.
Getting back onto it, both of which are considered major disappointments for Marvel Studios, Eternals and Quantum Mania. Yes, it performed nearly twice as well as the Marvels, which flopped with only $206 million worldwide. But is that really the benchmark for success now? You have to beat the Marvels. You know, that movie where a 16-year-old girl is crushing on a woman like 3 times her age? Yeah, kind of fucking disgusting in my opinion. It also scraped by critical disappointments Thor: The Dark World and lost to Iron Man 2, both of which came out when movie tickets were much cheaper.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about inflation in a moment. Brave New World, or Captain America, in this exclusively on Disney Plus. Oh, apparently they just put it on Disney Plus or something. I don't know. In 2011, the first Avenger debuted with an average movie ticket of $7.93. In 2025, the average ticket number price is $10.78. That's the projected ticket price, by the way, folks.
Sounds about right.
In the time between 2011 and 2025, inflation has gone up roughly 41.6%. So adjusted for inflation, the first Avengers $65 million opening would equate to $93.5 million today, surpassing Brave New World's $88 million. Brave New World was also in just about every IMAX, Dolby, 4DX theater in the country this week. And those tickets are even more expensive.
Yep.
When the first Avenger came out, many theaters didn't have an IMAX screen or 3D, and 3D was starting to become more widespread. And I will never watch a movie in 3D. If you knew what was on those glasses, neither would you. Poop. Yeah. Fecal matter residue is found on those things, folks. Even in the plastic wrap. So yeah, hope I didn't ruin your movie theater going experience. This means Brave New World failed to outdraw a film released 14 years ago when the MCU was just still in its infancy. I prefer the first phase of the MCU. It was much more grittier under Paramount and Universal.
Yeah.
It might be the third highest earning Captain America movie of all time, but it had the smallest audience. The budget controversy. Perhaps the most contentious issue surrounding Brave New Worlds is the actual production budget. But many access media outlets, including Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, have cited $180 million budget, claiming that the film's break-even point is around $425 million. This figure has been parroted by others, including Culture Crave. However, industry insiders and respected journalists have called out this number as misleading. Jordan Ruimi, I'm sorry, I don't know that name. So Jordan of World of Real, one of the first to report of the film's ballooning budget, stated, "Now, of course, Brave New World didn't cost 180 million. That's simply too silly to believe. The actual budget was more than double that. They had reported the cost of the film to have risen to the $350 million mark due to the 4 rounds of reshoots.
Yeah.
And other journalists are confirming this. Joanna Robinson, David Gonzalez, they're dropping names, who wrote the most extensive MCU books, have been told that the overruns and reshoots drove Brave New World's budget to $380 million. So an additional $200 million, folks. Not good. So with marketing costs added in, it'll basically be impossible for this film to turn a profit. WDW Pro, Hollywood scooper and publisher of That Park Place, where I'm reading this article from, was another loud voice in the media pushing the actual cost of the film. He challenged Culture Crave when the outlet reported the 180 million figure, forcing them to admit that their numbers did not include print and advertising costs. With 4 rounds of reshoots, extensive marketing campaigns, most analysis still believing Brave New World's costs to be 350 to 375 million. I do believe I reported around that figure at the time that it was actually reported that was going on. When factoring in marketing and theater cuts, the film would need to gross around 900 million worldwide just to break even. The film's 192.4 million global opening is nowhere near what it needed to be. Given the steep budget, Brave New World faces a long uphill battle to profitability. And with the drop-off being between 68% and 82%, this movie is failed. Confirmed flop. Plop,
Very much.
plop, plop. A massive pile of shit. So yeah, there's no way this movie is turning a profit, folks. But yeah, the media keeps on saying, "Oh, but it did better than the Eternals. It did better than Quantumania. It did better." Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
This movie, or those movies, were flops.
Yes, they were.
This movie is a flop.
Yes, it is.
But had a drop off between 68% and 82%.
I mean, we haven't seen a drop off for a superhero that movie like that since, I would say,
Eternal.
BVS. Well, okay, I'm stepping outside of the Marvel movies and everything. Looking at that's another superhero movie. I would say BVS, Batman versus Superman. That sucker had, I think, a 60% drop or somewhere around it. And yeah, that thing absolutely just tanked. So in terms of Marvel movies, I would say most definitely. Obviously, there are a number of factors as to why this movie has flopped as massively as it has. One, of course, being the comments by Mr. Anthony Mackie, which we've already covered here. But in addition, I would definitely say that Marvel fatigue is no longer a rumor. It is very much a reality. Now, here's a sexy goth girl. Good to see you. Here's the kicker. Back a few years ago, we would have been getting a massive hype train for the finale to the quote unquote now multiverse saga. I mean, Doomsday, Secret Wars, everybody and their mother would have been talking about this. But except for the little bit of a bump that we got when Robert Downey Jr. was announced to be coming back as Dr. Doom, it's been freaking crickets. And this movie flopping, when you consider the success of the first 3 Captain America movies, I mean, okay, first one wasn't a massive hit, but it was successful and everybody likes it. Everybody still likes it to this day. Winter Soldier, regarded as one of the best entries in the MCU. still liked to this day. Civil War still was one massively successful. Everybody still likes. You're not hearing the same thing. Now, I do want to offer one piece of anecdotal evidence. I work in the food service industry, and most Friday nights, and especially on a weekend when a big release like Captain America would be coming out, we would be exceedingly busy. However, Friday, February 14th, the release date of Captain America, and Valentine's Day, we weren't like super dead, but we were nowhere near as busy as it would be if another big movie was coming out. I remember when Sonic 3 came out.
Oh, yeah.
And we were busy as all get out. Now,
Yep.
granted, but that's just one piece of anecdotal evidence as to why Captain America underperformed. People weren't hyped for this. Not to mention, people are probably the words of Mr. Mackey were probably ringing everybody's ears, and everybody's like, you know what? Screw you, dude. I'm gonna go see your crap ass movie where you play a bootleg version of Captain America. So it doesn't surprise me the spin with this whole nonsense. Not to mention, I would as I mentioned before, I would say MCU fatigue is very much real and is very much active. People are tired of the MCU. Except for like some people have said with Deadpool and Wolverine and Spider-Man and so on. People just don't give a crap anymore. And I can't say I blame them. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Zoic has a question here, and good to see you, Raya Kitty. Ambassador and Orange, did you think this year will be the downfall? No. I.e., Brave New World, Snow White, Gina Carano's lawsuit, trust on Disney are all of time low, or trust on Disney is at an all-time low, etc. It's going to be a very hard year for Disney. They're not just being sued by Gina Carano. They're also being sued by a lot of people who are disabled.
Yeah,
remember we discussed that, I believe, last week. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
There's a class action lawsuit against Disney for that. Plus Gina Carano forcing them to bring out Discovery. Yep. The closet or the skeletons in the closet are going to come out screaming. That's Kane. The Snow White movie, which I mean, Anthony Mackie didn't do anybody or do this movie any favors. Him say or with the I wouldn't say America is represented. Now, yes, a lot of people are saying I wouldn't make too much of a thing about that. But the thing is, folks, in an election year that just basically had overwhelming support for the political candidate that won the election, Donald Trump, saying that America isn't represented or Captain America doesn't represent America, it's kind of a dumb thing to say. I'm just saying that's a dumb thing to say. So yeah, he didn't do this movie any favors in the lead up to its release. Snow White, they continue to promote this film or that film despite 2 years of infuriating the audiences. 2 years of pissing them off with every marketing tactic they've done. Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot did nobody any or did their film no favors when they started attacking the original. Then Rachel Zegler went absolutely nuts, wishing over 78 million people no peace due to a presidential election result she didn't like. And with what else? Brave New World. Yeah, this movie's flopping. I believe Mr. H Reviews did a video earlier today. I didn't watch it yet. I usually watch his stuff after I usually do it or talk about it. But yeah, apparently he thinks that this movie is a certified guaranteed flop. Probably is already having a flop sweat right now. So yeah. But the point is, folks, when Disney is so desperate that they are trying to sell success through lies of omission. And that is when they mess up, because they think people are not smart enough to do their own research. We will delve into that stuff. We will report it. We will make sure people know about it, because we want people to know about the evil of Disney. And we want them to understand that Disney needs to change their ways. Otherwise, people will not be satisfied until Disney's in its grave.
Yeah.
And yes, that will require millions of people losing their jobs. I am very much aware of that. But I'm also a realist, folks. If it results in millions of people losing their jobs because of a company that is very disgusting with a lot of their rhetoric, I am all for it. Because yes, many of these people are saying, well, we need this job to do this or to pay rent or to live and whatnot. I get that. I understand that. But in the real world, sympathy is unknown by nature.
Pretty much.
So I'm sorry that people are going to struggle. But unfortunately, that's the reality of the world we live in. And Disney needs the wake-up call. And the problem is, it was their choices that led to the fall.
Yeah.
It's not our problem. It's not our fault. It's their choices they made. They made choices that were antithetical to profitability. That's just the reality of it, you know? But enough with that. What are your final thoughts on this, Ambassador?
Well, one other piece of anecdotal evidence I want to add. There was a time when merchandise for an MCU movie would rush off the shelves. Stores couldn't keep it. I was recently in a Walmart, and they had the display for Brave New World set up, had all the merchandise on it and everything. It ain't moving. People aren't buying it. Nobody wants to be Captain Falcon America. Nobody wants to buy the crap. It's eventually going to go on clearance. It'll be a few weeks or so, or a month and everything down the road, but this stuff will be selling for a few bucks if they're lucky. So I by no means am happy that the MCU has gone down the crapper. But as you said, they have made their bed. Now they're going to have to lie in it. And quite frankly, I don't want to say they've necessarily had it coming, but they've done it to themselves. Those are my final thoughts on this anyway.
That's all right for the bad grammar, man. Everybody has bad grammar. I mean, you should see some of the shit I write. That's very terrible grammar, run-on sentences and shit. Actually, I'm mostly reliant on Google now just to edit. But yeah, moving on to our next topic. Where is it? Banners, that's right. Yeah, Tom Hanks did some tomfoolery, which turned out to be very stupid, because defaming a group or the majority of Americans is not the smartest idea.
Not really.
So we got this from That Park Place. Shout out to him again. Tom Hanks sparks backlash among conservatives for portrayal of MAGA supporter on SNL 50th anniversary special. So, folks, I don't watch SNL. I think SNL is complete shit, and it has been for many years.
Yeah.
But let me get into this article to let you guys know what happened. Tom Hanks' recent appearance on Saturday Night Live for his 50th anniversary special ignited a wave of controversy, with many criticizing the show for its portrayal of Trump supporters. Hanks, reprising his 2016 role as a white Trump supporter from a rural background, wore a MAGA hat and refused to shake hands with a black game show host played by Kenan Thomas in a skit parodying Black Jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
The segment, meant as a callback to a similar skit from 2016 that was initially well received, was met with far less enthusiasm this time around. In typical SNL fashion, the attempt to recapture the charm of the original instead drained any humor from the concept. It also comes across differently following the 2024 presidential election, where Hanks was a very vocal Kamala Harris supporter. Outkick founder Clay Travis took to X to voice his disapproval, stating for his 50th anniversary, SNL had Tom Hanks play a racist Trump supporter afraid to shake a black man's hand. Fun fact, Trump's 2024 election win was the least racially divisive American election since 1964.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Bringing on the facts, man. Others joined the chorus, including Link Lauren, a former political advisor to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who labeled the skit as a tired trope and attributed SNL's declining ratings to such content. Tom Hanks just came out on SNL in a MAGA hat for a bit where he acted like he didn't want to shake a black man's hand. This show wonders why their ratings are in the gutter. Trump won the popular vote. This tired trope that MAGA is racist is disgusting. SNL is an unfunny show for snobbish liberal elites. Harsh. Post-election episode of SNL, hosted by comedian Bill Burr, averaged 4.4 million total viewers in 2024. That's a loss more than half of the 9.2 million viewers it got in 2020, according to Nielsen research. Conservative influencer Kevin Dalton also weighed in, pointing to Trump's electoral success as proof that such portrayals are out of touch. Tom Hanks in a MAGA hat, horrified by the idea of shaking a black man's hand, tells you everything you need to know about what the left has learned since November, and why they'll thankfully continue to lose landslide election after landslide election for the foreseeable future. Adding fuel to the fire, we don't need to know about the 2016 skit. Adding fuel to the fire is the fact that Trump made significant gains with black voters in the 2024 election. About 3 in 10 black men under the age of 45 voted for Trump, roughly double the number he received in 2020, according to exit polls. The growing support within the black community makes SNL's portrayal of Trump supporters as inherently racist feel even more out of touch to many viewers. Former SNL cast member John Lovitz, Kevin Nealon, Siobhan Fallon Hogan recently shared their thoughts on the changing comedy landscape with Fox News Digital, noting that stand-up comedians have grown sharper and snarkier in recent years, sentiment many feel is reflected in SNL's current tone. But basically the point is that, or to the topic, folks, Tom Hanks decided to defame the MAGA movement. And instead of, some, yes, righteously got bitched at or got outraged and whatnot. And me, it's like, he's out of touch.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, folks. It is often said that if a Republican wins over 20% of the black vote, they win the election. Trump won 25 to 30% of the black vote. More than any other Republican president, if I remember correctly.
I'd have to do some research, but yeah, probably.
But Tom Hanks, dude, Hollywood, you're not getting it. You are on the verge of becoming irrelevant. You're lashing out however you can. I get it. That is the gut and animal instinct of people who are facing irrelevancy. calling MAGA supporters racist, bigots, and all of this, you're devaluing the name or the meaning behind the term racism.
Yeah.
We're not racist. There are so many different examples of how not racist they are. But if you do look at the left, you see a whole lot of intolerance over there. I mean, if a black person even thinks about voting for Trump, you will see so many people flip their shit.
Yep.
I mean, you will see some of the most racist and vile shit coming from people over there.
Yep.
And, but also too, I mean, this is something that happened today, folks. So I don't have an article about it, but one of the most racist people on network television, the news, and MSNBC specifically, got her show canceled. And they're going to say, well, it's because of declining ratings, sure. But it's also because this woman has done nothing but racially lash out on her segments. And that was Joy Reid.
Yeah.
So, to Joy Reid, I say, fare thee well.
You will not be missed.
You should have seriously thought about what you were doing. You allowed your Trump derangement to become so
severe,
apparent, that you had a form of Stockholm syndrome because you kept on dyeing your hair blonde and doing the Trump weave with your wigs. She hated Trump so bad she wanted to beat Trump, folks. And that's the craziness of most of these people who hate Donald Trump simply for being Donald Trump. But the main reason, and then I'll turn it over to you, Ambassador, the main reason why most of Hollywood hates Donald Trump, it's not so much that he's president. It's because they feel betrayed by a fellow Democrat. Donald Trump was a lifelong Democrat for the longest time.
Okay.
And yet he ran as a Republican and he kicked ass as a president. And he's currently doing so. Now, yes, I am a little bit showing my political bias. I support the man, but in no means do I support that man through every little thing he does. There are things I disagree with him on. I've even called him openly a retard on one of my videos when it came to his views on violence in video games and how they perpetuate violence in real life, which isn't true. I'm a living example of the opposite of that happening. But anyway, I digress. Ambassador, what are your thoughts on Tom Hanks trying this old tired trope of trying to make MAGA people sound racist or out to be racist?
Here's the thing. It takes, as the old phrase goes, it takes two to tango. Yeah, Tom Hanks portrayed the caricature, obviously. I remember this particular caricature from the first installment where he appeared on the skit of Black Jeopardy on SNL. It was moderately funny, but it wasn't overly politically charged. But the thing you have to remember, Tom Hanks did portray this character, and obviously he wanted to do so. But the writers wrote his dialogue. That tells you all you need to know about the state of SNL. It isn't just so much that Tom Hanks more than likely has a form of TDS, but I would say the writers' room at SNL has a major case or a moderate case of TDS as well. Now, I watched the clip in question, and quite frankly, I was not outraged. I was actually rather bemused. I found it unintentionally funny because this is by no means how conservatives behave, much less act. Not to mention, now I will say this, and this is more on a personal level. My father-in-law, who I love most dearly, I really do, dresses him in much a similar way as the character that Tom Hanks is portrayal of a MAGA supporter dresses as well. And to a degree, he does have a similar accent. So on that level, I find Tom Hanks's portrayal offensive, but just to myself, and I would imagine to my wife.
Can I give my opinion?
By all means, honey, go ahead.
I think Tom Hanks can shove it up his ass.
Man at
I'm
Bastards.
sorry, I am done with that man.
Yeah.
But yes,
And Orange Hat's giving you a thumbs up.
you can tell
He can hear you. He can hear you.
Dan, I'll tell you right now, when I saw that clip and it looked like my dad and sounded a little bit like my dad, it was offensive to me because I am proud to be half Kentucky, half Indiana. My dad was born in the coal mines of Kentucky. My mom was born in southern Indiana, and by golly, that's part of my heritage, and that pissed me off when he did that. There, I'm done.
Okay. That was our Man Ambassador minute. But anyway, yeah. It doesn't surprise me by any means that the backlash that has come from this skit on SNL. Let's be honest here. Saturday Night Live stopped being funny, I would say, probably in the mid 2000s, give or take. For me, the heyday of SNL was the 80s and the 90s. After that, it just kind of went downhill. But this right here is about as absurd a performance or skit that we've seen since Alec Baldwin played a parody of Donald Trump himself. It's not funny, it's not clever, it's not edgy, it's tired, it's boring, and it's just a sign of the decline of SNL. The fact that this show has been around for 50 years is nothing short of a miracle. It should have stopped maybe 30 years ago. But I imagine Lorne Michaels' ego won't allow that to happen. So, anyway, those are my 2 cents.
But yeah, and Madam Ambassador, if you can hear me, I'm pretty sure your ambassador will tell you this. Thank you so much for your input. And we always do appreciate Madam Ambassador's off-screen input, folks. She always does give some good takes. So very much appreciated.
Yep.
Article's got a point, right, Kitty? It is kind of tiring. Yes, it is, because that's, folks, no joke. I watched this channel called Black Conservative Perspective. And most of the time, whenever it's a video about them constantly whining and bitching about racism this, racism that, black victim this, black victim that, I literally have no tolerance for it. I literally can no longer I just can't. I tune it out. It's like, all right, I'm skipping this video. I can't listen to this bullshit. It's not so much that it's because it's people saying all this shit. It's literally because of the absolute level of mental ignorance, mental retardation that these people are expressing and trying to make it sound like intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who are mentally limited, who are way smarter than the people who are on these panels. I know people who live in the New York State houses who are mentally retarded. They are held back and hindered through mental handicap. They are way smarter than CNN panelists and MSNBC panelists.
That's not hard.
I mean, folks, that's just objective fact. It's to the point when if you guys don't have anything really constructive to say about your political opponents, I can't listen to you. It's because I have heard it all, and it has become so tedious that I just tune out. I no longer have the tolerance for it. It's like, okay, you're going this route. Fuck you. You are complete shit. You are talking shit. You are making no sense. Everything you say is verifiably false.
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen to lies. I'm sorry. I am allergic to lies and bullshit. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I sneezed when I first saw the article about Tom Hanks. And I'm also pretty sure I sneezed when I saw the article about the box office bullshit about Captain America 4.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, folks, you want to get into more crazy shit? Well, apparently there's an actor out there who once portrayed a character who was the embodiment of hope, who managed to take one of the most evil villains in movie history and turn himself back to good. And that character was Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill. Now, Mark Hamill has fought so many battles in movies and whatnot. He's blown up Death Stars. He's fought Sith Lords. He's done all sorts of shit. But the one thing he cannot win against, folks, is the battle versus pants. So, yes, Star Wars actor Mark Hamill loses his pants at BAFTA award show while presenting latest humiliation.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna mute myself.
Yeah. So yeah, Mark Hamill may have survived the 2 duels with Darth Vader, but he finally met his match at the BAFTA. His own pants. In a moment more awkward than kissing your own twin sister, Mark Hamill's trousers abandoned ship mid-speech, dropping faster than Boba Fett into the mouth of the Sarlacc. Dude, who is this? M. Montanaro, solid with the puns, man. I love you. As he scrambled to pull them up, the actor's shaky hands and panic expression seemed to imply that he had a bad feeling about this. Don't believe me? Check out the video below. Now, folks, I have not shared audio, but it doesn't matter what he's saying. It's what he does here. And I will zoom in on this and I will show you what he does here.
Sorry.
You lost. Oh, damn.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
I can hear. I just want to say this
yeah.
real quick.
Go ahead.
You know what would be the perfect music to play over that? Anything from Benny Hill.
Nice. So Mario Knopfhall wasted no time delivering a forceful blow on X. The man who lectures America on politics can't even keep his own pants up. The force wasn't with him this time. Indeed, the man famous for battling the Empire was thwarted by a faulty waistband. Witnesses, including Timothy Chalamet and Ariana Grande, watched in disbelief as Hamill's dignity took a nosedive worthy of a TIE fighter crash. Hamill tried to pull them back up without too much fuss, but as a wise person once told him, do or do not, there is no try. But Hamill's pants aren't the only thing that's been slipping in recent years. The Star Wars legend has become better known for political meltdowns than movie magic. His BAFTA blunder is just the latest chapter in a saga of unhinged rants, including the now infamous appearance on Politican podcast hosted by California Governor Gavin Newsom, Marshawn Lynch, and Doug Hendrickson. During the podcast, Hamill's behavior was more Joker than Jedi, disheveled, shaking, and slurring his words. He launched into a tirade against the re-election of Donald Trump, with all the composure of Anakin Skywalker after being denied a seat on the Jedi Council. I was devastated, Hamill lamented, setting the stage for a rant more tangled than his trousers. We're not going to watch that rant, folks. On social media, Hamill's battles have been just as chaotic. He proudly admitted to muting critics faster than the Millennium Falcon can make the Kessel run. I looked up one day and I realized I've been muting people for 40 minutes. Even Hamill's family has tried to intervene. His daughter once pleaded for him to tone down his political tweets, but much like his waistband, Hamill rebelled. I love my country, and I feel it's my patriotic duty to oppose this sociopathic, I forget the other word, whatever it was, with every fiber of my being. Who cares if I lose a part in a movie because I hate the orange atrocity? I take offense to that. This hat is not an atrocity, sir. I do, and I want people to know that. What do you have against my hat? The BAFTA wardrobe malfunction seems like the perfect metaphor for Hamill's current state. Once revered hero, now fumbling through the spotlight. From pants to politics, it seems Mark Hamill just can't keep it together. One thing's certain, the Force may have been strong with Luke Skywalker, but for Mark Hamill, it's barely holding up his trousers. May the clean underwear be with you, Mark. You're going to need them. Folks, if I could ever get a hold of Rita Panahi from Sky News over in Australia, I would love her to read this article because, goddamn, she would have so much fun with it. She's
Yes,
the one
she
that does
would.
all the lefties losing it thing.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I like her. I really enjoy her stuff too.
I love that woman, man. She is just so freaking hilarious. So, yeah, Mark Hamill losing his trousers. Ambassador, go.
Well, I'm just gonna say this: any appearances that he makes at any comic cons or so on in the near future, he'd be prepared for a lot of mockery. He may even end up leaving those said comic cons because I could just imagine the panel questions. Hey, Mark, what happened to your belt?
Whatever was awesome. Yes.
Yes, it was. Look, do I thoroughly enjoy the parts that Mark Hamill has played throughout his career? Sure, I have. The Joker and, of course, Luke Skywalker, obviously. But
God.
the man is completely unhinged when it comes to politics. Dude, your career highlight was roughly 40 years ago, because we don't talk about the sequels. They are not canon. Luke Skywalker never appeared in those movies.
No, that was Jake Skywalker.
Yeah, Hamill's own words. Anyway, I wish Hamill would just quietly go away, live out the rest of his life, and we don't have to hear from him anymore. And this whole situation, I gotta give mad props to the author or the writer of this article for Park Place. Dude or dudette, the puns.
Melvin Montanaro, yeah.
Melvin.
Yep.
The puns were strong with you in that article.
It's either Melvin or Marvin or something.
Okay, well, either Mr. Montanaro, you nailed it. And I give up my applause to you more so than I do Mr. Mark Hamill. But yeah, this was a nice little palate cleanser. I mean, of course, I find humor in a lot of stuff that we cover on here, whether it's intentional or unintentional. But in this case, it's completely, totally intentional because how do you not wear a belt or suspenders when you're going to do any type of public speaking? It's simple common sense. Where was his wife? Where was his wife? Where was his dresser or whatever the case may be and everything saying, Mr. Hamill,
probably under the podium trying to give him a
Well, it was the BAFTA,
Folks,
so you never know. You never know.
Have you ever seen Police Academy?
Yes, I have, and I know exactly where you're going. I have. I know exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, where was the dresser or whoever is going? Okay, Mr. Hamill, do you have your belt on or suspenders? You don't. Okay, let's get you backstage before you go out in front of the world and the audience and speak, because we may have a wild wardrobe malfunction, and unlike the wardrobe malfunction that Janet Jackson suffered many years ago at the Super Bowl, I don't think anybody wants to see anything that is underneath your clothing, because it's probably short, shriveled, and hangs to the left. Pun intended.
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody wants to see his lightsaber.
Yeah.
With that being said, folks, it's time to go to the closing article of the weekly recap before we do our movie discussion. So, folks, as we all know, Cobra Kai had its season 6 finale, its last 5 episodes, and I gotta say, as a Karate Kid fan, to give you guys a preface, I have been a Karate Kid fan for pretty much my whole life. My first name is Daniel. I was bullied in high school and in school. So yeah, I very much identify with Daniel LaRusso. And yes, I also learned karate and whatnot. Unfortunately, I didn't learn it from Mr. Miyagi, though. That my sensei was American. But I no less learned to defend myself and whatnot. But yeah, it seems that it seems that thank you. It seems that people are trying to make the finale out to be some Christian right-wing conservative series or finale. And so this is not an article that I want you to take any wisdom from. This is an article that I plan to shred to shit. Because, folks, the people who are promoting this absolutely are just plain stupid. Now, I do want to clarify, depending on what your religion is, I have no quarrel with your religion. You can be Christian, you can be Catholic, you can be whatever the heck you want. But if you are going to this level of zealotry, I will take issue. I will take umbrage. So let's get on with it. So, Cobra Kai finale on Netflix definitively shows that right-wing Christian values are what make for great storytelling. This is by Fandom Pulse. Cobra Kai just finished its run with the 3rd part of its 6th season dropping last week, and ending the show wrapped up nearly perfect handling of an 80s nostalgia revival of the Karate Kid, with a fantastic conclusion exemplifying Christian values, which is what made the show so great. Christian values, you say? Premarital sex is apparently a Christian value, folks. Going to a non-Christian church to get married is a Christian value, folks. Children born out of wedlock is a Christian value, folks. Robbie Keane, I do not believe his parents were married. Yeah. But yes, also preaching violence of the Cobra Kais, as well as temperance from the Miyagi-Do. Oh, yeah, Christian values, I guess. But let's continue on with this article. When Cobra Kai first arrived on YouTube, it was a breath of fresh air in its streaming television environment. Every single show seemed to feature a black, disabled lesbian and push the leftist woke agenda. Despite the premiere episode being titled Ace Degenerate, the show was anything but degenerate. It was oddly wholesome, even with its swearing and fighting themes. It was a setup as a reverse of the Karate Kid, where Johnny Lawrence, the original villain from the movie, had been down on his luck for decades after the All Valley tournament broke him because Daniel LaRusso utterly ended his alpha male high school life, which was all about winning. He lost everything: the tournament, the respect of his sensei father figure, Kreese, and even the girl who went with LaRusso. And here's the thing. I have watched Cobra Kai, and I disagreed with the premise. You see, what was the one? They even used this line at the end of this show where they got where Cobra Kai won the tournament and got the trophy. You're all right, Lawrence. Good match. And that's what Lawrence said to Daniel LaRusso. You're all right, LaRusso. Good match. And he handed him the trophy at the end of Karate Kid. But yet, apparently, it broke him so badly. Apparently, after he allowed Daniel LaRusso to have that win and whatnot, apparently, he just couldn't let it go. Even William Zabka disagreed with this premise, if I remember correctly. He's like, no, man, he lost with honor.
Yeah.
He gave respect to LaRusso. Doesn't make sense. But you know what, folks? I still enjoyed this show. But moving on. Fast forward decades later, he's deadbeat, can't even raise his own son, and has no direction in his life. His luck starts to change when he realizes Cobra Kai is the thing he loved, and he wants to regain discipline. The first step in what's an inherently Christian right-wing theme of the show, or the first step in what's an inherently Christian and right-wing theme of the show. Yeah, kicking the shit out of a bunch of kids is a Christian concept, apparently, which is what makes it great. As a Christian element, the whole premise is a redemption arc. No matter how low you sink, you can still do what's right and return your life for good to influence others and bring more into God's kingdom. That's exactly what Johnny's story represents. Did you watch this show? I mean, seriously, did you watch this show? Fandom Pulse writer, whoever you may be, behind the pseudonym of Fandom Pulse. I'm guessing your initials are JDA. Similar arcs of biblical characters like St. Paul, Mary Magdalene, who turned away from their lives of degeneracy to the ultimate redemption. Are you trying to say that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute? Because last time I read the Bible, Mary Magdalene wasn't a prostitute. It was a common misconception not supported by facts.
Yeah.
On a right-wing level, Johnny makes his life better by dedicating himself to strengthening himself, utilizing martial arts, training young men to be the best they can be. The arc also leads Johnny to stop being a reject and to support both his real son Robbie and his adopted son Miguel as the series goes on. He even becomes the father of a new baby in the finale, dedicating himself, and the hell with that cane, to raising his children, basically, and doing right by his family. Daniel LaRusso is the ultimate father and family man. He takes care of his children. He teaches them physical disciplines. He teaches them to be smart and cares for them without reservation. Okay, this person definitely did not watch the show. His son and daughter are spoiled little shits at the beginning of this show. No joke, folks. His son constantly was a fat little shit with his face in a video game for most of the first season. Then second season, he turns into a bully. The daughter is a little bit more humble and a little bit more, yes, I have fun. But, yeah. Let's continue on with it. Oh, my God. He's dedicated to his wife and doesn't even think of temptation. He's got a successful business. He runs himself and continues his passion and discipline for Miyagi-Do, passing along his tradition to the next generation. Throughout the series, he is ultimate example of what a good man should be from a right-wing Christian perspective.
You okay, Orange?
This person did not watch this show.
Well, I'll wait till you're done before I give my 2 cents. Oh, okay.
We're done. Last time I checked, folks, when I watched this show, Daniel LaRusso was flipping his shit because Cobra Kai came back. He basically did the most impetuous and immature things, getting back at Johnny getting back at him, through 6 seasons of this shit. Or of the show. Not shit,
Mm-hmm.
The show's actually good. And you're saying this is all Christian values. His buddy, or Cobra Kai buddy, Bobby, who is a pastor in their church that's not a Christian church, literally knocks Johnny out in a church because he came in drunk and belligerent and whatnot. Yes, albeit. Is that Christian values? Is breaking your best friend's arm Christian values? I mean, is getting in a high school fight Christian values? I mean, folks, as much as they want to sell the redemption arc is not solely belonging to Christian values. Belongs to any moral value that believes in right and wrong.
Yeah.
A person can pick themselves up from the muck and become a better person. And they don't even have to be religious to do so.
Yeah.
The problem is with the writer of this article, and I'm not a person who usually does this, but unfortunately, they decided to go after a show that has helped shape my childhood. And so, yes, I am going to defend it. Or to a franchise that helped shape my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
The show had nothing to do with religion.
Yeah.
It had everything to do with entertaining the fans of the movie or of the franchise. It had left-wing ideology and right-wing ideology in it. Sure. It had social justice and the other stuff that is less political correct in it. They, in fact, mocked political correctness in it. They put it in there only to mock it. I mean, there was, I believe it was like, what, season 2, season 3, where there was a town board meeting in which one of the people was complaining, why the heck are you guys voting on changing the name of manholes to something else simply because it has man in the... I mean, they're literally mocking that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And calling it out. So, yeah, when somebody comes out here and tries to pass this off as a religious show, I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit. Now, am I religious? Yes, I am considered. I've been baptized Catholic. Do I believe in God? Yes, I do. Do I pray all the time and go to church? No, I do not. I am a non-practicing. But I am not going to let some sycophantic zealot of the Christian religion try to take over the show and say that it was some sort of Christian narratives and that it was a Christian show that makes for good storytelling. Now, do those beliefs fall within Christian values? Yes. Sure. Why not? Some of them do. The redemption and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But is this show a Christian show? That is the main question. Is it a Christian right-wing show? And now I'll hand it over to people in the chat as well as Ambassador to give his thoughts. What are your thoughts, Ambassador?
Well, okay, let me start off by saying this. I am by no means as huge a Karate Kid fan as you are. I did enjoy the movies. I have not watched Cobra Kai in its entirety. I am interested in doing so, and since we have Netflix, I can do so. So I may do that at some point. But I would say Cobra Kai, just by face value, has very little to nothing to do with any type of real Christian values. I would say a better argument could be made that two other franchises, The Chronicles of Narnia and The Lord of the Rings, has more to do with Christian values than Cobra Kai does. I don't think there's really would be much of an argument to that statement, because both creators, both Tolkien and Lewis, were one a Protestant, the other Catholic, very devout in their Christian beliefs, whether Protestant or Catholic, either way. But the creators of Cobra Kai, I don't know their religious leanings to any degree whatsoever, but I would say they definitely did this more so as a send up or a counter to a lot of the more progressive shows of the time when this series started, and even now that it has ended. They were making a show that they knew people of the series would enjoy, and I think they would think that people of the more conservative or moderate center right leaning audience would enjoy. Not so much left leaning, although that doesn't mean a person from the more liberal or democratic side of the political spectrum wouldn't enjoy the show. I would say this is a show that just about anybody could probably most likely enjoy, regardless of their religious or political leanings. Trying to force a Christian focus within this series is honestly unnecessary. It was a good, entertaining series. It paid respect to the franchise that it was based on. It continued the story in a way that was entertaining. It gave, I think, good character development to the characters of Daniel and Johnny Lawrence. Well, Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, but just Daniel and Johnny, not to mention their families and so on. It gave, I think, a more accurate analogy would be that it presented an idea of a non-traditional family in terms of the two dojos, being that Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, and those two families eventually coming together. Now, granted, they had their ups and downs, they had their bumps in the road and so on. But forcing a Christian framework or perspective on this show is not necessary. I would say anything, it's nonsensical. It would be much more in keeping to discuss a series, say, for instance, like I said, The Lord of the Rings, even to a degree, the Star Wars franchise. You could say, now granted, Lucas did not put anything specifically religious in those movies, and he did that deliberately so. Those have been more so from the outside for the people within the fandom to do. I've done it myself. So Cobra Kai is not conservative, nor is it liberal. It is not Christian, nor is it atheistic. It is a good, solid, entertaining show that does present, I think, very mainstream, commonsensical morals and values that anybody of any religious persuasion or political or social persuasion would agree with.
Okay. I mean, also another thing, when it comes to the finale, I mean, they're basically saying it's the finale that pushes the Christian stuff. When you literally look at what Johnny Lawrence is teaching as a part of the words of Cobra Kai, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. It's about as anti-Christian as it gets.
Yeah.
Strike first, be aggressive and whatnot. Not exactly Christian.
Mm.
Strike hard, meaning give it your all. Sure, that part might be Christian. No mercy. Don't put up with any of the crap out there. Last time I checked, Christianity preached tolerance.
And turning the other cheek.
Yeah.
From the words from the mouth of Christ himself.
But yeah, hold on a moment.
Yeah, the very mantra of Cobra Kai is not by any means anything that will align with any Christian morality, whether it be Protestant or Catholic. It just doesn't mesh.
But yeah, this, folks, there are people online currently who are trying to push religious extremism. Now, I am all for expressing religious beliefs. You can preach your religion, but one thing you should never do is try to force your religious views onto others. One thing that you should also never do is try to claim something for religion that does not belong solely to religion. Cobra Kai was meant to entertain everyone, not just religious people. And if you think that it has Christian values, okay. But I am a person who watched that show episode by episode over the years and saw nothing remotely close to being a religious steadfast expression. And that's totally fine. Not everybody needs to toe a party line. Absolutely right, Kitty. As Christians, we have lost what the true meaning of bringing people to Christ. We should lead people to Christ, not influence people to Christ. Good point there too.
Yes, Junebug, well said.
I mean, folks, I already had a religious discussion with one of my closest friends, and I'm not really going to discuss it here. But the point is, Cobra Kai was not a Christian right-wing conservative show. Because if it was, left-wingers wouldn't have watched it. The show wouldn't be as successful as it was.
Mm-hmm.
All it was a show made by people who absolutely loved the original movies.
Yep.
And they did their damnedest to honor those original movies by doing cameos, including the AI resurrection of Miyagi. I'm still on the fence about that.
Fair enough.
Sure, I get referencing Miyagi and whatnot, but in the final season where you did a CGI face replacement and AI voice reproduction, that's creepy. That's creepy.
Yeah.
Do not zombify a character like that.
Yeah.
Ugh. But anyway, any final thoughts before we move on to our movie discussion?
I've pretty much said my piece on this. I mean, like I said, am I interested in watching Cobra Kai? Sure. Now that the series is completely done, I'll probably go onto our Netflix account and do so. But the idea that this show has, I would say, just as one final little thought, this show is about as apolitical and a-religious as you could probably get. And as you said, since it is why that it resonated with both sides of the political and I would say religious spectrums. It was just a good show that people enjoyed and people who were fans of the original films enjoyed as well. That's the long and short of it.
Nice. All right, but yes, do not zombify with AI, folks. That's my bit or final bit. So we're now going to go to the Tombstone discussion, where we are going to be discussing this lovely movie.
Lovely.
Oh,
This
I
movie
did
is
that out of
awesome.
order. Tombstone. Sam Elliott, Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell,
Bill
Bill
Paxton.
Paxton. Not just them. I mean, who else was it? They had a million. Powers Booth, I believe, was in this.
Powers Booth,
Um,
Michael Biehn,
Michael
Billy
Biehn,
Zane, Luke.
Yep.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Luke.
What's his name from Avatar? Played Quaritch.
Oh,
And also,
yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name. Damn. Yeah. Also,
wow, great segue. Great segue.
also, Yondu, Michael Rooker.
Oh, Michael Rooker. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, folks, I've watched this movie like once or twice. I do not know as much about it as I would like to. I mean, I'm gonna definitely have to watch it some more. Billy Bob Thornton, apparently. Stephen Lang, thank you, Neozoic.
Thank you, Neozoic. Yeah, Stephen Lang. Yeah.
Yep. And
As I
Billy Bob Thornton was also in this, apparently. Charlton
yeah,
Heston was also in this.
Yeah, Charlton Heston had a cameo. He had like 2 scenes. The same with Billy Bob Thornton. He had 2 scenes. Also, you had a voiceover at the beginning and end of the movie by Robert Mitchum as a narrator. This is one of those movies. I grew, I owned my first copy on VHS years and years and years ago. Mother and Master still has that copy. I have it on a special edition 2-disc DVD version. It's got deleted scenes, but the movie itself, you can watch either the regular version or the extended version, which has all the extra deleted scenes added in. This is not just a great movie or a great Western. It is a great movie, but it's also based loosely, not entirely, on real history, because obviously all these individuals actually existed. Wyatt Earp,
Yep.
Doc Holliday, Virgil and Morgan Earp. There were 2 other brothers that actually went to Tombstone with the other 3 that are portrayed in this movie, but we never see them on screen, but that's beside the point. Michael Biehn is Johnny Ringo. His showdowns with the Earps, and especially with Doc Holliday, the scene where they're in the Palace casino and the Palace bar or saloon, the Palace bar and saloon and gambling house, where Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday are having a Latin off between each other, where they're speaking solely in Latin. Obviously, it's not historically accurate because Johnny Ringo was not an educated man. He was a gunslinger. But that whole scene, whether it's historically accurate or not, is absolutely marvelous. This is one of those quintessential Westerns after the bust of the Western movie genre that came out in the 90s that kind of reinvigorated the Western genre. There have been other stories. There's actually been another movie that talks about the showdown at the OK Corral. It's actually called Showdown at the OK Corral. It had Burt Lancaster and for heaven's sakes, I can't remember who played. I can't remember. I think Burt Lancaster played Wyatt Earp. I cannot remember who played Doc Holliday off the top of my head. But what we get here is a absolutely rousing story about friendship and brotherhood, and one man taking the law literally into his own hands, but also becoming an officer of the law. Because here's the thing about Wyatt Earp. He was a lawman. He made his name as a lawman, but he also did many other things in his life. He was an enforcer. He was a gambler to a degree, not as prolific as his good friend John Doc Holliday. But what you have in this movie is a story about two men who come from very different backgrounds but have a deep respect for one another. And when Wyatt's brothers, one is killed, the other one is crippled, Doc takes up arms with him and says, I'm going with you on this mission to take out the Cowboys. And throughout this 2 hour plus movie, you see a friendship, you see a brotherhood between Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. You see the cruelty that the Cowboys embodied.
Mhm.
They were into cattle wrestling, they were into robbery, they were into practically every type of illegal activity that existed at that time. But as the open narration done by Robert Mitchum says, they are also one of the earliest forms of organized crime in the United States.
That is true.
Now,
That is
here's
true.
the other interesting thing. Yes, John P. Cassavetes is the director on the credits, but Kurt Russell, in a lot of ways, was a shadow director working alongside Cassavetes as well, because Cassavetes didn't quite get the interplay between these different groups and these different individuals, whereas Kurt Russell did. Now, I'm not saying
Yeah,
John
this
P.
movie.
Yeah.
This when I look at the other list of movies here, Rambo: First Blood Part 2, Leviathan, Cobra, I don't see much connection with Tombstone.
Mm-mm. So
I don't.
I mean, in a lot of ways, this could be just written off as a atypical '90s action movie, and it does have that veneer to it. I've discussed this movie on my own channel. I even did a watch along with one of my good friends. You know him, I know him, MB Geek.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie. This movie is a part of my teenage release the Kurt Russell cut. Purportedly, he has it in his house. Junebug, if that is in fact true, I would love to see the Russell cut of Tombstone. Now, here's the interesting thing. It also presents the relationship between Doc Holliday and his lady consort, Kate, in a rather interesting light. Because in a lot of ways, Kate is an opportunist. She is a lady of, let's just say, ill repute or bad reputation. That's just a way of saying that she's rather loose with her morals and who she associates with. Now, for those of you who may not know, John Doc Holliday, the real life individual, he was a gunfighter. Granted, he only killed a handful of people throughout his time, but he was also a very prolific gambler. But he was also an educated man, and he was a dentist, hence why he was called Doc. But he also, at the time when he was friends with Wyatt Earp, he also had tuberculosis. He went out west hoping that the drier climate would help with his condition. And unfortunately, it wasn't entirely successful because you see throughout the course of this movie, Holiday to varying degrees in poor health. Because tuberculosis, there was no treatment. There was no treatment for tuberculosis at the time. The best thing you could do was mitigate how much activity you had, because there's even a scene where Holiday has a rather severe episode and he starts coughing up blood in the middle of a many days long poker game between himself and Ike Clanton and other members of the Cowboys gang. And the doctor tells Holiday, you need to stop your drinking, you need to stop your smoking, you need to stop your social activity, you need to stop having relations with your lady friend here. And Holiday pretty much tells the doctor to piss off because he's going to do what he wants. Val Kilmer's performance in this movie, I think, is grossly underrated. Yeah. You could say that this is a caricature of the real life person of John Doc Holliday, but for all we know, he very well could have been very much the way he was portrayed in this movie. We don't know definitively for sure, but either way you slice it, Val Kilmer gives a great performance in this movie, as does everybody else. I'm by by any means maligning or dismissing Sam Elliott or Bill Paxton or Powers Booth or Michael Biehn or Kim Delaney or anybody else's performance.
Oh, this movie was very good.
Yeah,
with everybody. I mean,
everybody brought their A game to this movie. They did an absolutely wonderful job. One of my favorite scenes, just to list a few, is actually when the Earps and Holiday and Kate and the Cowboys all go to I think it's called the Birdcage Theater, and they're watching a series of shorts from a traveling theater troupe headed up by Billy Zane. And Billy Zane's character gives a recitation of the St. Crispin Day speech from Henry III. I think it is, Henry III, or no, Richard III, excuse me, Richard III. And the Cowboys are sitting there and they're absolutely eating it up. And later on, you have another short play about the character of Faust who made his deal with the devil to learn how to do alchemy, which is essentially turning junk metal into gold and so on, and learning all sorts of secret knowledge. And we come to find out the devil is played by Kim Delaney's character, Marcus. Can't remember her name for the life of me. But anyway,
Vivian.
No, it wasn't Vivian. Caroline. No, I know her last name was. I know the person's name was Marcus, but I can't for the life of me remember her first name off the top of my head. But anyway,
Josephine
Marcus. Yeah,
Dana
that's
Delaney.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't. Dan Delaney. My bad. I keep saying Kim Delaney. It's not. It's Dan
Wait,
Delaney.
isn't she also in Tulsa King?
She might be. I'm not sure. I do remember her also from I think it was a series in the late '80s, early '90s called China Beach, where she played a female doctor at a medical camp during the Vietnam War. But that's beside the point.
Hey, she was also in True Women with Angelina Jolie.
If you heard that, Dana DeLay was also in. Honey, I heard you. I'm trying to tell everybody else.
Sorry.
Wait, what'd you say?
Dana DeLay was also in True Women with Angelina Jolie. So,
Okay.
Anyway, but this is one of the Tombstone is one of those movies, whether you're a man or a woman, if you've had a really crummy ass day at work or you've just had a crummy week or whatever the case may be, you can come home. You can pop this in your DVD or Blu-ray player if you happen to have it on Blu-ray. I'm not sure if it's ever had a Blu-ray transfer. Okay, was confirmed that it has had a Blu-ray transfer. And you can watch Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and all their buddies kick the other living piss out of the Cowboys. I mean, this movie is exceedingly. Yes, Fook Norris, Val Kilmer in Top Secret. I've only seen that movie a couple of times, but it is an absolutely awesome parody of the spy movie trope, particularly during World War II. Let's see, Neozoic.
I would actually. I've only seen True Grit out of this list.
Okay, well, the question is, are we talking about the John Wayne version or are we talking about the Jeff Bridges version?
Well, I like both of them, to be completely honest,
Fair
but
enough.
I like the John Wayne version. I like the John Wayne version best.
Yeah, same here.
When it comes to westerns, this film plus the one God damn it, Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman,
the Quick and the Dead.
That one was those are my absolute favorite 90s westerns.
Yeah.
Because
The
when it comes to
90s
westerns, my absolute favorite is always going to be McClintock.
Oh, dude. Yes. Anyway, I can give more of a no offense to you, Orange. I can give more of a to because I've seen practically all of these except for Unforgiven. I've seen all of these. Neozoic, to answer your question from my side of things, I would say that Tombstone stacks up very nicely with the rest of the movies on this list. Now, the thing you have to realize, all of these movies that you, yeah, trailer, yeah, run, you cur, and tell the other curs the law's coming.
Yeah.
You tell them
Yep.
I'm coming, and hell's coming with me. You hear? Hell's coming with me.
Yeah, that was when he said that, the way he said it, the way Kurt
Oh, yeah.
Russell delivered that, it's
Yeah.
like if I was standing up, I would have looked behind me. I mean, that's the kind of conviction in a delivery or a line delivery
Yeah.
that just works. That
Oh, yeah.
just, holy shit,
Well-
you believe it, you feel it. And have a good night, Riot Kitty. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate
Take
it.
care, kiddo. Yeah, but to get back to Neozoic's question, the thing you have to realize with all the movies that you've listed, all the westerns that you've listed there, they each come from a somewhat of a different subgenre of the western. But if I was just to purely put this in a list of like a top 5 or a top 10, can you bring that comment back up, Orange? The one where Neozoic listed all those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. To answer your question a little more comprehensively, Neozoic, I would put True Grit as number 1. Then I would put Tombstone number 2, the Dollars trilogy number 3, Shane number 4, Searchers number 5, Magnificent number 7, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid number 8. That would be my list. So, in terms of the stories that they tell, the thing you have to realize is that Tombstone is more a semi-historically driven narrative, whereas the others are not so much. Now, with Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, those are two individuals that did exist in the real life, obviously. Magnificent Seven is a Western homage to the Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa, and so on. But just looking at them solely as westerns, I would definitely say, at least for me, Tombstone is definitely within the top 5 of that list. I'm talking just about the list that he gave us.
I know. I was just thinking you guys are missing one western.
What?
How the western won?
Say that a little louder, honey.
How the westerns won? You think of all of the actors that gathered together to retell the story of how the American plans and the West was and how it became what it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, to me that's number 1. Tombstone definitely number 2. I agree with you on that.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. Sorry.
It's everybody's opinion. This is all based on opinion, personal. So
Thank you, Madam Ambassador.
he says thank you, man, honey.
What?
Orange said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anyway, I mean, obviously, I've watched this. I'm not saying this to be by any means disrespectful. Obviously, I've watched this movie a little bit more than you have, Orange. But I would definitely say you need to watch this movie a few more times.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that to be mean or anything, but if you're a fan of '90s westerns, this is definitely one you need to rewatch because it's deeply quotable. It's very relatable. It tells a great story. Like
I'm
I
your
said,
Huckleberry.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Everybody
very
try-
well known. Yeah.
I will say one of my favorite scenes involving Doc Holliday doesn't even involve them interacting with the cowboys. It's when him and Wyatt reconnect. They're in Tombstone and they're standing there on the street. And what my when Sheriff Behan comes over and introduces himself, and Wyatt deliberately introduces Holiday to him, and John says to him, "Piss on you, Wyatt."
Hey, what's
Nice.
you talking about earlier about them speaking in Latin?
Mm-hmm.
Because Latin was very big back then in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
It was actually not uncommon for people that were not rich to know the meaning of Latin and mean hot Latin. So
Yeah,
FYI.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. So, but one of my other, and this is the interaction between Holiday and Behan, and I've always wanted to say this to somebody just to absolutely piss them off. Excuse me if I don't shake hands. I absolutely
Yeah.
love that line. And then, of course, the ultimate burn was to Johnny Tyler, Billy Bob Thornton's character, when they're all standing around talking, and Holiday looks at Johnny Tyler and says, "Oh, Johnny, I forgot you were there. You may go now." and
Nice.
and Wyatt's like, "Just leave the shotgun," and he tries to hand it to him, and he says, "Just leave it." And he's pretty much just telling him, "Leave it on the ground. We'll pick it up later." And
Yep.
and Johnny Tyler's like, "Thank you," and just walks off. We never see him again.
There was
But-
also I believe there
Go
was
ahead.
also a scene in this movie where Holiday was rather drunk and does like a quick draw bit.
Oh no, yeah. Well, it's actually right after Curly Bill kills Fred White, the town marshal,
Yeah.
and Thomas Hayden Church, who plays one of the cowboys, says, "Drunk piano player, you're probably seeing double." And Holiday is like, "Well, I got 2 guns, one for each of you."
Yeah.
Now, if you're now, there is another quick draw scene, and it's actually the showdown between him and Giant Ringo towards the conclusion of the movie, where they're in the
Yeah, that
grove,
was
they're in the woods by themselves, and
yeah, I saw
uh,
I was talking about that other one.
okay, the one where it's right after Fred White gets shot.
Yeah.
Okay, now there is actually a deleted scene that's actually included in the extended cut. It's right after Virgil gets killed, and no, Virgil gets shot in the arm and loses the use of his arm, and Morgan gets killed. And Holiday is sitting in a chair in a darkened room by himself. He's disheveled. He is clearly drunk, and he gives this very interesting, very cryptic and creepy soliloquy. I can't remember the exact wording of it, but Kilmer's delivery of it absolutely stellar. If I when I have time later after we're done, I'll look up the clip. I'll send it. I'll put it in our group chat on X so that you can check it out for yourself. So, because it's
Mhm.
a lot of people have said that Val Kilmer was robbed of at least a nomination for his performances as Doc Holliday. I am inclined to agree here. That's not to say that everybody else didn't give a great performance. They did. Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp. He is in essentially a loveless marriage. And here's the interesting thing: his quote unquote wife, Maddie, after they separate, she leaves Tombstone with Virgil and his wife. She ends up ODing on laudanum, essentially opium.
Yeah.
And obviously we know that Wyatt marries Josephine, and the really interesting thing is at the end of the movie, you have the closing narration by Robert Mitchum, and he's talking about the fact that that Wyatt and Josephine married, and when they bury Wyatt Earp, they have several early Western movie stars, including one of the time, very famous at the time, named Tom Mix, who was one of the pallbearers at his funeral. And what Mitchum says is that Tom Mix wept at the funeral and when they buried Wyatt, because I think a lot of those guys realized who Wyatt Earp was. He was the embodiment in a lot of ways, though I don't think he ever really wanted to be seen as that way, because Wyatt Earp was, to all degrees, a very humble man, a very self-assuming man. But a lot of those guys who played those early cowboys, he was the real, genuine article. He was the embodiment of what they thought the Old West was like. They were just playing cowboys and Indians, essentially. He was the real deal. He did it. So I think that was a very nice, very. So anyway, go ahead.
I remember after watching this movie, I mean, I remember parts here and there. I can't remember it all. I'll have to rewatch it again. But I do remember that I thought very highly of the movie. It's like the movie did. This movie is over 2 hours long, I do believe.
With the extended cut, yes. Even with the regular cut, I think it's just a shade over 2 hours, like 2:10 or so. But yeah,
there are bits of this movie that do go a little bit long, if I remember correctly. It's like I checked my phone to check the time a couple times. But overall, you got a great cast. You got great line delivery. You have great action. You have great gun choreography. You have great gun safety and whatnot. This movie does a really good job at telling the story that it needed to tell. I'm not going to dispute that. The only problem that I ever had, or that I had with it, was the pacing. The pacing was uneven. But I did enjoy the movie when I saw it the first time, and I believe I saw it twice. I saw bits of it when I first saw it, but then I sat down and really watched it, and it's like, this movie's actually pretty damn good, you know?
Yeah.
And I really thought it was. I enjoyed it.
Well, the other thing that I appreciated is with the costuming in particular, let me say it this way, the wardrobing of everybody, they didn't dress everybody in just bland, basic colors. Now, obviously, yes, in this particular picture and everything, you've got Wyatt and John in their dusters, you've got Virgil and Morgan in their long coats and everything. But the other characters, for instance, like Turkey Creek Jack Johnson and Texas Jack Vermillion, their costuming is a little more, let's say, extravagant, but it was accurate to the time. With the Cowboys, their costuming was, I'd say, a little bit more extravagant as well, but also accurate to the time. What we get with this movie is, I think, a more historically accurate depiction of what life was like in the Old West, but it's not 100% historically accurate, because here's the thing: accurate records for that time in American history weren't incredibly well kept. There is a line from another Western movie that Mother and Master introduced me to, and it's one that I think you probably know of as well. It's called "The History of the Man Who Shot Liberty Valance." It's okay. There's a line in that movie. Yeah, there's a line in that movie where Jimmy Stewart's character is talking to a reporter, recounting his time in the Old West with John Wayne's character and so on. Donovan, I think Donovan or Donovan, one or the other. And the reporter says, whether you have the truth or the legend to print the legend.
Yep.
And I think, in a way, this movie does pay homage to the legend that is the Old West, but it also tries to portray these individuals, which we have to varying degrees heroized or immortalized in American fiction. What is done with them is actually trying to humanize them and portray them somewhat more accurately as to who they might have actually been in real life.
Yeah.
So
there's recently I just saw an episode of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, on Friendly.
Oh, I didn't know you liked
Johnny
that show.
Cash. Oh, I love that show back in the day. Or if I see it, I'll definitely check it out again. But Johnny Cash was in an episode.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
And when he played that character, I love how much grit he put into it. He's like, well, I need to make sure that, or doesn't that, and he's like, nope, you can do it here. Well, if I don't get him, or if I don't operate him on it soon, he'll die. You can do so here. And he ends up getting pleurisy and pneumonia and shit. And he's refusing treatment. And he finally outs with it afterward. He's like, I shot a man that had no gun. I don't want to be treated. I don't deserve to be treated. And it's like, damn, man.
Yeah.
That is such a powerful moment because he actually embodies the honorable sense of a person who, at that time, it's called the way of the gun, essentially.
Yeah.
There was a code if you were a gunslinger. You didn't shoot people that didn't deserve it. You also didn't shoot somebody who had or who didn't have a weapon.
Yeah.
If you murdered, you were no better than you were a dishonorable shit, is basically what it was. And that is something that, honestly, I thought they did very well in this movie, too. And I also like her, because, yes, from what I do remember, and Trayla said it earlier, take it easy, Niazog, thank you for coming in. It's like, he just wanted to retire. He went to Tombstone to retire, Wyatt.
Yeah.
Except that the shit that came into the town basically forced him to take up the law again.
Well,
And it's
the
son
assault
of a
on his
bitch.
family as well, obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that as well. And Sam Elliott's character, he's like, look, I know we got a constitution and all, but God damn it, we need to find some way to curb this shit. You know? And I'm thinking to myself, oof. Back then I can understand it. But say that shit nowadays, you will get no support from me.
Yeah.
But the 12 revolver shot, or the 12 shot revolver. I believe he had 2 guns in that shot.
Yes. And each one would have 6 shots, so yeah.
Yep. The revolvers were well known to be 6 or 5 shooters. He must have had a 6er. But I also do remember that I shed a couple tears when Wyatt went to visit Holiday in his last days.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, knowing what I know now about Val Kilmer and how sick he is, he can't even talk anymore.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It really kind of brought it home a little bit. Yeah.
Well, he had that one line that he spoke in Top Gun Maverick, and that was it. But it was a very powerful line.
That was actually done with help of his son's voice.
Well, either way.
So he basically he lipped the words,
and they synced it.
His son synced it. That's how they did that. That was actually pretty well done.
Yeah, it was.
Because it actually sounded like he was the one saying it.
Yeah. Well, this isn't like 1960s or 70s lip syncing from overseas. This is actually, 2020 something and everything. I can't remember exactly when Maverick came out.
The movie was supposed to come out in 2019, but COVID.
Yeah.
Or no, 2020, but then COVID. So
it came out in 21 or 22?
Came out in 22, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I think it was 22.
Pushed it back a lot.
But yeah. Anyway, I think it goes
moving
without
on.
saying.
Or
Yeah,
go ahead, finish.
No, I'm actually done. Go ahead. I'm done. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I forgot what I was saying, so go ahead.
Whatever way I'll just say this. Whatever way you slice it, this is just simply a good, entertaining, and I think absolutely outstanding piece of cinema. I think in the many years after its release, it's garnered much more respect and love for the performances. I mean, you just type it on YouTube, Doc Holliday best scenes, and you come up with a whole list of compilations that people have done, because that's how much people love this movie and love the character of John Doc Holliday. Not to mention Wyatt Earp, not to mention the brothers, not to mention the Cowboys and so on, and the other members of Wyatt's party and so on. This movie may not have been as successful at the box office as it should have been, or maybe it was. I don't honestly recall, but it has very much stayed within the cultural consciousness of the movie going public ever since its release in the 1990s.
Yep. Anyway, folks, we are getting to the 2-hour mark. So thank you to everybody who showed up. Ambassador, Jarrell, Juneba, Goth Girl, Riot Kitty, Trayla, Norris, Vanya, Neozoic, and everybody on X who also showed up. Y'all are freaking awesome, folks. So what are we going to discuss next week, movie-wise? I mean, honestly, I think Air Force One would be a good choice.
I could do Air Force One.
A badass president. Yeah.
Yes. America.
So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, let's do Air Force One. Not to mention
Fuck yeah.
Not to mention it's got Gary Oldman in it. And you cannot go wrong with Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman playing a Russian. But yes, we are all right. So Air Force One next week's movie discussion, folks. I'm definitely going to be watching that during the week. Tuesday, to let you all know, Tuesday I will be discussing this lovely gem of a game for finishing out the favorite video game stories. Mostly, I'm going to be sticking to my favorite character arc story, which is the Inquisitor. But I'm also going to be talking about different characters like Malgus, Satele Shan, and others that are a part of it. But yeah, Star Wars The Old Republic is the last bastion of the Star Wars EU that is still going on, I believe.
As far as I know, yeah.
So yeah, I thought the game was done this year. Or I believe the game is done this year. Contract is up and whatnot, but I'm not sure. But I will be talking. Yeah, I will be talking that at 1 p.m. Tuesday, and I'll also be talking a little bit of KOTOR or Knights of the Old Republic, due to the fact that Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2 are part of Star Wars: The Old Republic, due to Revan and the Jedi Knight story arc basically being KOTOR 3 for the game. But yeah, other than that, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Barroom Podcast will also be Tuesday night. Then Wednesday on Jade Shadow's channel, 8 p.m. is John Wick Chapter 2 for the 1s and 2s. Then we will be discussing Law Abiding Citizen at 8 p.m. exclusively on X on Thursday night. And Friday night, I didn't do Orange Hat Uncensored last Friday because I was tired, folks. When you are tired down to your bones, you're not getting on a stream. I'm sorry. And I was tired down to my bones. That I was trying to stand up, and it's like, sit back down, lay down, go to bed. And I did. It's like, I'm sorry, I cannot. I apologize. Yeah.
Can't go, you can't go. It's happened to me.
Exactly. So it's like, look, if I am too tired, which I have been this winter, I have been freaking shoveling snow like a madman this winter, more than most because this is a harder winter this year. But yeah, it makes you tired. It makes you very tired. So if I don't do an uncensored stream, I am sorry. It's just that
Hey,
you're tired. You're tired. You know.
we're
But
only
yes,
human. We're only human, for heaven's sakes. Can I do a
and
shameless
then
plug?
yeah, good.
Coming up coming up tonight, I will be uploading the for now final episode of the Tarantino podcast. Me and my friend Ace, we just wrapped up recording our discussion on True Romance, which was not directed by Tarantino, but was definitely written. It was the reason why he has had all the success in Hollywood that he has had in subsequent years. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. And then this week, me and Madam Ambassador will be recording a series of reviews over some favorite fairy tales from back when Disney didn't stink. That's what we should have called it, the when Disney didn't stink podcast. That'll include Sleeping Beauty, The Little Mermaid, and Beauty and the Beast. So that's my shameless plug.
All right. And with that, folks, well, till next time, thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful night, and always remember to stay humble. Peace.
Are you done? Are you done?